Hello, welcome. Episode 38, I think we are now, of the Knitting Expat Podcast. Welcome, thank you so much for joining me today. Today is Monday the 30th of November 2015. I am coming to you from a very dreary and grey looking day out here in we're south of London. I'm south of London at the moment in East Sussex, in a little village called Heathfield. I'm staying with my parents-in-law at the moment, and so thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Mina. My husband and I are from the UK, but we live in Bahrain. We're just back in the UK at the moment visiting family, and just want to say welcome to all new and returning viewers. Thank you again so much for joining me this week. I also wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been in touch with me recently over the last few weeks. It really has meant a lot to me to hear from you guys. Some of the messages that I've been receiving have been really touching and really, really lovely to hear about. So thank you again so much. And yeah, thank you for everyone who's been chatty in the Ravelry group and on Instagram and all over the place. It's just been great to chat with you guys. I have to apologise for being a little bit slow at getting back to people, replying to messages and comments and stuff. I just find that when I travel, I'm not online as much as I am usually when I'm home, so I'm a little bit slower at getting back to people. So apologies for that, but I think I am pretty much up to date on messages at the moment. There might be one or two that have come in overnight that I haven't replied to yet, but anyway, moving on. Places where you can find me. You can find me on Ravelry as Mina86. We have a group on Ravelry for the podcast, which is Knitting Expat Podcast in the group section. You can find the show notes for this and all previous podcasts at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. You can find me on Instagram as Mina Phillip. And you can also find the project bags that I sell as Mina Makes on Etsy, although the shop is in vacation mode right now. But that is where I sell the project bags that I make. I think that pretty much covers all the places you can find me. I am on Periscope as Mina Phillip, but I've never used it, so you can choose to follow me if you like. I don't really use Periscope at the moment. I'm not sure if I will, but anyway, we'll see. So first off, really quickly, I just wanted to talk about a new podcast that I've been enjoying, and there are a few that I've recently started watching, but for some reason I can't find them on my subscription list. I mean, I know they're there, I just can't filter them out at the moment. But the one that's at the forefront of my mind that I've really been enjoying lately is Brooklyn Knit Folk with Jacqueline Salem. And Jacqueline is someone who I've met a couple of times now when I've been in New York before, recently. And she's really lovely, very sweet. And she's recently started a podcast, and I think she's just released episode 2. So make sure you go and check her out. I'll have a link in the show notes and on the episode thread. And so make sure you check her out and give her some support. She's doing some really lovely things. She's a new knitter, relatively new knitter. And she's diving in head first and enjoying the process, it seems. So it's really lovely to see what she's up to. Right, so next up we have finished objects. I've just realised there are a couple of things missing from my missing objects list on my show notes, but that's not a problem. So first up on my finished objects, I'm going to try and go in chronological order of what I finished first. So I believe the first thing I finished are these socks, which I've written up as a pattern and will be released soon. I'm calling these these are going to be the this way, that way socks, because the pattern goes this way and that way. It's like a zigzag slip stitch pattern. I don't have my sock blockers, but hopefully you'll be able to get an idea on the texture. And it works really well in this beautiful variegated yarn. This yarn is almost striping effect, but it's not quite striping. And the yarn is Misty Alpaca. I think I've got the tag in here somewhere. Yeah, it's Misty Alpaca. Oh, glare. And it's 50% alpaca, 30% merino wool, 10% silk and 10% nylon. It is really beautiful, and it's colourway HS18. I got this at Loop in London back in September when we were here. And it's just really, really soft yarn. It's when you're knitting with it, it's almost like knitting with butter. It's so soft. It's lovely to knit with. And these socks knit up really quickly. These will be for my mum. I haven't given them to her yet because I knew if I did I wouldn't get them back. But she will get them later today when I get home, I guess, because now I've shown you guys. And I've already taken pictures of it for the pattern. So yeah. One of my testers has already finished it, and there's another one who's working on it now. So hopefully this should be out before Christmas. So keep your eyes out for that one. And that was knit on 2.25mm needles. I used high sharps for the first time to knit these, and I really enjoyed knitting with them. I know some people don't like them because they feel like they're too sharp, but I only found I poked myself a couple of times because I wasn't paying attention. But in general, I really enjoyed the knit and really enjoyed the needles as well, and definitely be using those again. The pattern for this one was sort of came out of nowhere, as it were. I think I explained last week, I was knitting on the cuffs at home before I left for the Curious Handmade Crimbo party, and I was just going to do a plain vanilla sock with this because I just thought the yarn was really pretty and needed to just shine on its own. But then my mum, I told my mum that I was knitting these for her, and she asked if I could do a pattern on it, and she liked the socks that I've done with slip stitch patterns. So I said okay. I didn't have any patterns with me, and I could remember a couple of the ones that I'd done before, but I kind of felt like I wanted to do something a bit different. So I decided to just come up with my own pattern, and I kind of winged it as I went and took a few notes throughout the day, and then came home and wrote it up. So that's how that pattern came to be. I know some people have been asking, I think I've got a question about it as well later today, asking about how I come up with my designs and stuff. This one was very much off the cuff. Quite literally off the cuff, and no real thought process behind it other than just doing what I felt like doing at the time. The next finished object is a pair of socks from my dad out of Patterns Croy Socks FX, because as we all know, my dad needs more socks. That's the ball band, and the colourway is Cascade Colours by Patterns Croy, and here they are. I really like how these have turned out. Really lovely shades of greens and browns and blues, and it's really interesting because they look like completely different colourways when you look at it on the camera, but in person they don't look that different. It's interesting. I hadn't noticed that. But this is a pretty standard plain vanilla sock. I knit these on 2.75mm needles. I picked up some 2.75s last week. Because even though I'd knit two other pairs of Patterns Croy socks on 2.5mm needles, I did feel like they were a little bit like too dense, almost really bulletproof, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and these are still pretty dense socks, but I think on 2.75 I was able to make them a little bit longer for my dad because he likes a long cuff, long leg, my standard fish lips, kiss heel and rounded toe. I did this 56 stitches 56 stitches on the circumference, as it were. I didn't have a lot of yarn left. This was all I had left. Sorry. This is all I had left of one ball, and the other ball I pretty much used up all of it. I was going to do 2 more rows on the foot before starting the toe decreases. And but I knew I wasn't going to have enough yarn, so I started the toe decreases, and I ended up Kitchenering it 1 row early. I was going to decrease. I normally decrease down to 8 stitches on each needle, but I had to stop at 10 because I ran out of yarn. So I had enough left to do the Kitchener, and that was about it. But they turned out great. They fit me fine, and I think they've definitely stretched out a little bit more after washing, so I'm sure they'll fit my dad with no problem. And so yeah, I know he'll appreciate those. So again, he'll get these later when I get home. And then my third finished object is my dad's sweater. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen the the finishing process of this, as it were. And this is what it looks like. The pattern is called the Henley Sweater for Men, top down, I think, Henley Sweater for Men. And I'll try and remember to link the pattern because I didn't buy it on Ravelry, and I don't actually know if I have the link for it, for where I've purchased it from. So this is how it's turned out. These are the sleeves and the body. All the ends are woven in, everything has been trimmed and blocked and everything, and it smells lovely. Well, it smells like my dad because he was wearing it last night, but yeah, I had a bit of an issue with the sleeves, I have to say. I knit the first sleeve and I got about halfway down the sleeve. I got about this far down the sleeve and I was looking at it, I was like, this looks really big. This looks really, really big. So I got my dad to try it on, and yeah, it was massively baggy under the arm, almost awkwardly so. And so I ripped back, I ripped out the sleeve entirely and started again. But yeah, so when was it? The sleeves took me, each sleeve probably took me, well, was knit over 2 days. So not counting the half sleeve I knit and ripped out, which was like another day in itself. Each sleeve took me about two-ish days of knitting, and I could only knit on these at home, so because by this point it's a large but pretty heavy sweater at this, and it used exactly 7 balls of, almost exactly, I had a little bit left over of Cascade 220 Superwash in the chocolate colourway. I think it's, can't remember the exact colourway number, but it was chocolate online. And yeah, I knit it on 4.5mm needles. I really like how it turned out. And the buttons, I'll show you those. The buttons I picked up from Loop in London last week when I was there, and they're sort of vintage leather buttons. I thought they go quite nicely with the colour. Yeah, and I'm super happy that my dad liked it. He got to try it on last night. He got to unwrap it for Christmas, early Christmas. And yeah, and it fits him great, and he wore it most of the rest of the evening. So if you want to see a picture of him wearing it, that's on my Instagram page, so you can go check that out. And yeah, I was just trying to think if there was anything else about the sweater I wanted to tell you. I think that pretty much covers it. And yeah, basically I made him take it off and leave it here before they left last night, because I wanted to show you guys. So he'll get that back later today, and I'm sure he'll be super happy about that. And my last finished object, because I have 4 for you guys this week, because apparently I've been on a knitting binge, a finishing binge rather, is, I feel it hasn't really been that long. Like the sweater, this is the other thing I was going to tell you about the sweater. The sweater took me 17 days to knit. I cast it on the, let me just check my notes here. When did I cast it on? I cast it on the 11th of November and cast off on the 28th of November. So does that technically count for my Nanny Swaymo sweater? I said I wanted to knit a sweater in November, and I did. But I didn't keep track of the stitch count, so I don't actually know. I'm sure it's definitely over 50,000 stitches because it's a 48-inch chest size sweater. But anyway, so yeah, so that took me about 17 days to finish. Which, considering I was knitting on it on and off, and there were definitely days when I wasn't knitting on it at all, but I don't think that's too bad. That's pretty good for an adult male sweater. And the last thing I've got to show you, and like I said, this kind of bugged me that it was taking me so long, but because I was knitting on the sweater, and you know, there were times when this wasn't really a portable project because I had a chart and I needed to weigh my yarn and stuff, so I was casting on the socks. So this kind of ended up on the back seat, and this is my smaller version of the Across the Pond shawl, or shawlette, and this is how it's turned out. I cast it off on Saturday night, and I obviously haven't blocked it yet, but you can see the texture section. You can sort of see how textured that is. I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but it's really sort of got a quilted textured feel to it, which is lovely. And the lace is all curling up at the bottom with the picots. But but you can sort of get an idea on what that will look like. And this will block out nicely. It's not going to be massively deep. It's more of a long shawlette, it's almost like a scarf type shawl. So it should be quite an easy thing to wear, scarf-like, I guess, just wrapped around your neck. I mean, this isn't even blocked, and you know, this is going to be quite long, I think. It's not going to be as long as the larger size, but this is almost my wingspan. I think it'll probably be about my wingspan once it's blocked, which is about 175 centimeters. Yeah. So the other one was over 2 meters long. This one would be about 65 centimeters shorter. So what's that in inches? About 24 inches less than the other one in length. And I've did the maths on it, and I used about 386 meters of yarn. So you should definitely be able to get this out of a single skein of fingering weight yarn, although I would recommend having at least 400 meters to be safe. But the pattern is very adaptable. If you decide to knit it out of a single skein and you notice that you're starting to run out of yarn and you're a bit worried about not having enough for the bind off, you can do one or two things. You can either bind off in a different colour, or you can do your bind off early. It'll be explained in the pattern how you can adjust where you bind off. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. And it's currently being test knit by some lovely testers. And I am hoping, fingers crossed, to have the pattern released either towards the end of this year or at the very start of the new year. I've given my testers until the end of December to finish, because I know it's a busy time of year. People are busy gift knitting, knitting for Christmas, even though all of that's all done for me because we had early Christmas. But yeah, so I wanted to give people plenty of time to have enough time to knit the shawl and get on, do their other knitting as well without feeling too rushed about it. So that's the Across the Pond small shawl, and I'll show you the yarn that I've used for that. The main body yarn is this beautiful Malabrigo sock in the Arco Iris colourway. I really love the colours in that, and I love how it knit up as well in the variegated. And the second one is yarn from Lavender Loom Yarn Company, and this is her fingering weight base. 100 grams is 357 yards, superwash Highland wool and polyamide 80/20. It's really lovely, soft, got a nice twist to it yarn, and it's dyed with basil, this one. And the colours with these two just went together so well, and I'm thinking if I run out of things to knit, I might do something else with these two together, because there is a decent chunk of yarn left over from these. There's almost half a ball of each left, so I could almost do another one of the Across the Pond shawls, but I think what I'll do is maybe I don't know, I might come up with a pair of matching mitts or something. We will see. And that is it for finished objects. Moving on to works in progress. Oops, wrong bag there. Readjusting. So works in progress. The first one I have to show you is the Yuko shawl, which is designed by Amanita. That's how you say her name. On Ravelry. Just trying to find a better picture to show you. That's a picture of the shawl, and I've just finished the first section, so this is quite a bit bigger than the last time I've shown it to you. I didn't put a marker in, unfortunately. I forgot, to be quite honest. That's where I am now. It's quite a bit larger, and I'm just about ready to start the first set of stripes. The first striping section with the second colour, with colour B, and then I'll go into the colour B section, which is an eyelet section, and then it's the second striping section with colour C, and then it's a colour C section and a bind off. Still got quite a way to go, and this is being knit out of lace weight yarn. This is the colour A, and this is Isaga lace. This is colour B. And then I've got colour C. This is your lace. It's 100% alpaca. 50 grams is 400 meters. And it's really lovely fuzzy yarn. This one almost matches the colour of the wall. It's quite cool. But yeah, my mum got me these yarns from Loop when she came to visit in July. And I'm finally starting to knit them into a shawl. And it's pretty soft. It's kind of scratchy next to skin, but alpaca can tend to be a bit scratchy next to skin. But I think it'll be fine in a shawl. It's not too scratchy for me, but I put the shawl up against Perry's neck last night and he was like, oh no, too scratchy. He didn't like it, but I like it. It doesn't bother me so much. I'm finding now that I knit, I'm becoming more tolerant to that itch factor, if that makes sense. But yeah, so that's that. Knitting it on 3.5mm high sharps. I would tell you colourway names. Oh, they do have colourway names. Okay, or numbers really. So this one is colour number 46. This one is colour number 23. And this one is colour number 40. So 40, 46 and 23 for anyone who's interested. And like I said, I'm knitting them on 3.5mm high sharp interchangeables. And that's that. I'm hoping to get some more progress on that for next week. This one has kind of been taking a bit of a backseat because it is lace weight. It's a shawl. I was at a point where I had to keep track of where I was in the pattern. Even though it's a very simple pattern repeat, it's not as easy to read your knitting with that in the lace weight in garter stitch. So especially with the longer, starting to get to the longer rows, if I wasn't tallying off the rows I was working on, it was quite easy to lose track or forget where I was in the pattern. So the socks took priority as travel knitting, because going around London and meeting up with people, travel knitting socks were the easiest thing to take. Then it was my dad's sweater because I needed to get that done. Then it was the shawl because it is a design project and it's out to be tested. I needed to get that finished and I wanted to be able to make sure I could get it out of 100 grams. And then this. So this was actually what I knit on most of yesterday. That's pretty much all the work it had on it this week was what I knit on it yesterday. So I got quite a bit done and I'm quite happy with the progress I've made on this one. Like I said, I've been having doubts about whether or not I should have started this project, and now I'm far enough into it that I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stick with it. But it'll probably take me some time to finish. Like I said, because it is lace weight, it's difficult for me to work on this when I'm cold. Because when I'm cold, my fingers go slightly numb, and then I can't feel the yarn in my hands, and then I end up fumbling with the needles, and I make mistakes, and it's not enjoyable at that point to knit with this this yarn. So yeah, so like I said, it'll probably take some time. I'm not sure I'll even knit on this when we're in Iceland, but I will take it with me. But we'll see. We shall see how this goes. And my second work in progress, because I realised that this morning when I woke up that I only had one thing to show you, is something I cast on this morning, and that's a pair of socks. And this is the second cuff. I've already done the first cuff. I cast it on this morning whilst having a cup of tea with Perry and his parents. So this is the first cuff. Ooh. There we go. It's a 2x2 rope for 20 rows. My standard sock recipe. It's the second one. I think I've only done 6 rows on the second one. And maybe I'll knit a bit while I talk to you about it. And this, I'll tell you what the yarn is first. The yarn is Knit Picks hand-painted straw fingering in the Pansy Tonal colourway. And yeah, like it's really soft yarn. Knit Picks straw fingering is very soft. It's almost as soft as Felici, I think. It's nice and plump, and I'm knitting this on 2.5mm needles. Chaigu 2.5mm needles. And I really like how sharp they are. They're really good fun to knit with. I'd say they're probably about as sharp, if not sharper, than the high sharps. Or not sharper, they're about as sharp as the high sharps. And yeah, so I was knitting on these this morning whilst watching the news and chatting with Perry's family. And yeah, these will probably just be a plain vanilla or will have a really simple texture pattern on them. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with these socks yet. But yeah, again, I needed something for travel knitting because the lace project has gotten to that point where I'm going to be knitting with 2 colours at the same time and like carrying yarn up the sides and all of that. So I didn't want to be dealing with that in the car, especially because we're heading back up to London this afternoon. We're going to be going to Perry's uncle's house first for dinner to see him and Perry's cousins, 2 little girls. And I think by the time we leave, it's going to start getting dark. So I didn't want a lace weight project to be working on in the dark whilst we're driving back up to London. So I think vanilla socks would be good because I can knit those in the dark. I knit them at the cinema. So yeah. I do have a little video clip of me knitting for later in the video, so you guys can see it as in like from over the shoulder. I'm not sure how clearly you can see any of this right now, but a lot of you have been asking for me to knit a little bit while I chat to you guys, so I thought I'd give that a go this morning. And that just did one round there. Yeah, okay, so I think that pretty much covers it for works in progress. Next up on the list I have knit-alongs and giveaways. So like I've said already, we still have the Vida KAL going on, and that's now going to go on until the end of January. I need to change the dates in the Ravelry thread for that, but it will be going on until the 31st of January, I believe. And we have some prizes for that. We have some pattern prizes for chatter, and then we have some, I have a yarn prize, some stitch markers, and a project bag prize for finished objects. So make sure you post your finished objects in the thread. It's the same thread. We have a chatter and finished objects thread together. I'm not separating them out this time because it's very casual knit along. I'm not expecting there to be too many entries because it is the Christmas period and I know people are busy. So there's that. In January we have the January Sockathon KAL, and that's been co-hosted by myself and Marsha of the Very Little podcast. She challenged me to see who can knit the most pairs of socks in the month of January. So I said, okay, let's do that. And yeah, she's actually created a trailer for the sock competition, which is really quite funny and a lot of fun. And I will try and link that in the show notes and on the Ravelry episode thread, so make sure you check that out. The rules are quite simple. You just knit an adult pair of socks in the month of January, start and finish in the month of January, and you can enter to join. I mean, Marsha and I are going to be seeing who can knit the most pairs of socks, but you don't have to knit, like, it's not like a race for the rest of you guys to see how many socks you can knit. You just knit however many socks you want or can in the month of January and enter in the knit along. And yeah, there'll be prizes. I showed you one of the prizes last week, which was yarn by London House Yarns, her 4 Founders Harry Potter colourway. So that'll be fun. And then we will have other prizes. There will be a bag by me, and I believe we have another project bag being donated by a viewer, which is on its way. And like always, if there's anyone who's interested in donating a prize to the knit along, please let me know, get in touch, and we can sort something, we can arrange something for that. And yeah, so like I said, adult pair of socks, nothing thicker than fingering, or nothing thicker than heavy fingering. So I think the limit for me would be Patons Croix in terms of thickness. And no short socks either, no ankle length socks. I mean, they don't have to be massively long cuffs. Like I know I do pretty long cuffs for my socks compared to most people, but it's got to be a decent cuff. It can't be just like an inch and then the heel, because then it's not really a full size adult sock. Yeah, so I think that covers knit along news for now. Then what I'm planning on doing is probably towards the end of this year, I'm going to start a Ravelry thread called 2016 KALs. And there I will post all of the knit-alongs that I am aware of that are going on throughout the year of 2016. And if you are also a podcaster or a viewer of other podcasts and are aware of other knit-alongs that are not in that thread, then you feel free to post about them and link to the knit-along threads, the relevant threads for the knit-alongs that you are talking about. And I will try and monitor the thread and delete duplicates and any that are incorrect or stuff like that. But the general idea is to have one central place, one thread in the group where people can check to see what knit-alongs are going on and stuff like that. So I think the general idea, and I'll have the general guidelines for posting in that thread at the top of the thread, but it will be something along the lines of, posting the name of the knit-along, the start and end date, and the general outline of the rules. Now, if the rules are really long and there are lots of them, then you can just link to the thread and people can check that out for themselves. But it's, just a sort of general idea. So the name of the knit-along, let's say with the January Soccer-thon. So the name would be January Soccer-thon or just Soccer-thon. You'd link to the Ravelry thread. You'd give the start and end date, which would be 1st of January to the 31st of January. And then a little guideline for the rules, nothing thicker than heavy fingering, adult socks, no short cuffs. That pretty much covers the rules, really. Something along those lines. So keep your eyes out for that. I will let you know once that thread is up. Like I said, it'll probably be towards the end of the year. And I'll start rounding up. I'll go through all the podcast groups that I'm members of and round up all the KALs that I'm aware of that are going on into 2016 or starting in January 2016. And then we can just sort of add to them throughout the year and have a central location, as I said. So hopefully that will work. And I hope that you guys will be eager to contribute to that. And if you, like I said, if you're a podcaster and are hosting any knit-alongs, then you're also free to come and post those into that thread as well. Let people know what you're up to, what KALs you're hosting. Right, so I think we can now move on to the questions and answers section. And Sam, who's Lavender Loon online, whose yarn I use for my shawl, has asked, this question is coming from my husband. He is wondering what your design process is like. For instance, how did this new shawl pattern, the across the pond shawl, how did your new shawl pattern work itself out? Do you have an idea and just start knitting to work it out, or do you just know from knitting experience how certain stitch combinations will look? Do you write the pattern as you go, or after, or before even? He's just confused on how you translate your ideas to a finished object. I share with him how I thought the designing process works, since I've written a few crochet patterns, but since knitting is relatively new to me in a serious way, I don't know myself. So if you can share that sometime, that would be great. Okay, now I've spoken quite a few episodes back now about how I designed my Vida shawl, but the across the pond shawl was a slightly different design process. I knew in my head initially that I wanted to do a crescent shaped shawl, and so that was kind of where I started. I actually had the yarn before I even knew I wanted to do a crescent shaped shawl. I had the yarn picked out already for this design, not knowing what it was going to be. I just knew it was going to be using the Wool & Vine's Stella Banshee and the Wool Barnes Pale Cream. Both were a single ply silk and merino blend 50-50. They were almost exactly the same sort of base shade, and I knew they'd work really well together. So that was kind of what I started with, and I had that mulling around in my head for at least a month, I think, before I settled on anything. Then I sort of realised I wanted it to be a crescent shape, and then I was toying about with some ideas, and I knew I wanted a textured stitch for the body because it was a speckled yarn. I didn't want it to just be plain stockinette. I wanted to have something that would show off the colour a little bit more, and I wanted it to be something that would work with variegated as well. So I knew I wanted a textured stitch, and then I found this quilted stitch pattern in one of my stitch pattern books that I've recently gotten, and I adapted it. It's not exactly the same as it was written. I sort of swatched it, didn't quite like how dense it was, and then sort of adapted it to not be quite as dense, and then sort of swatched it again. I don't have the swatches with me, otherwise I'd show you. I swatched it again and figured out how the placement needed to work, as it were. and then I charted it. I charted it based off of the swatches that I'd done. And then I found a stitch pattern that I quite liked for an edging, and it was going to be an applied edging, kind of like my Vida shawl, which has an applied edging. And I swatched it in the yarn, and I just didn't quite like how it was looking. I didn't quite like how gappy it was looking, and I wasn't entirely sure that the stitch pattern for the edging went with the pattern in the body, and I was kind of umming and ahhing, and I wasn't feeling 100% about it. And then it was only after I started the shawl, I started knitting the body, and then I realised actually I don't want to do an applied edging. I wanted to do just a regular knitted edging, as you know, in the same direction, not applied. And then because I was using the Wool Barnes yarn, her yarn is dyed in the UK, and her colour sense is very classic, very sort of nice neutrals, very lovely speckled yarns. And, you know, I found the rosette sort of stitch, lace stitch pattern, you know, very quite classically British themed, I guess, in that way. And her yarn seems very classically dyed, very nice colours, nice neutrals, and lovely colours, very soft colours. And I don't know, it just sort of went. And then I started knitting it. I did chart it. I charted it first, actually, before I knit. I didn't swatch that one, which probably should have, but I didn't at that point. I just sort of charted it, made sure it worked with the stitches, the stitch counts that I had, and then I started knitting it. And actually, it wasn't until I started knitting the shawl that I realised how adaptable it was for sizing. Both the main body and the edging have 8 stitch repeats, and it just works out that way. And when I started knitting the edging, the lace edging, I realised how perfectly these bits here lined up with the textured stitch. I don't know how well you can see it. You see got the textured stitch here, and then this column of stitches just lines up perfectly with that. And that, as much as I'd like to say I planned it that way, that was a complete accident, and it was perfect how it worked out, and I really liked it. So it just sort of really ties the two sections together quite nicely. So even though they're in different colours, they blend together quite well, and if it was a single colour it would be perfect as well. So it was a mixture of planned design and accidental things working out accidentally in a way that works. Like I said, the two things that I hadn't planned for but were happy accidents was the way those stitches lined up between the two sections, and how adaptable the pattern is to be made whatever size you want to make it. Most of my patterns are pretty easily adaptable, but this one is by far the easiest in terms of sizing, to make it bigger or smaller. So that was a happy accident, and I hope that answers your question. The second question I had asked was by Alberta Bourne, who is Shay, I believe, on Ravelry. And she says, "Hey Mina, I'm a little behind on podcasts and spending my day catching up. I'm in the middle of episode 36, and you were showing off your yarn cabinet / bookshelf. You had stated that some of your other fingering weights were in the top left-hand corner. What's the difference between sock yarn and fingering weight yarn?" Well, the difference really, there isn't much of a difference. Sock yarn is fingering weight yarn in terms of its thickness. But sock yarn, generally yarn that is designed to be knit into socks, has some nylon content in it, whereas the other fingering weight yarn that I refer to would have been 100% merino or some sort of merino silk blends or alpaca blends that don't have any nylon in them, so they wouldn't necessarily be hard wearing or durable enough to be socks. For example, silk, for example, is an incredibly strong fibre, and you can definitely knit socks with yarn that has a silk content in it, but on the flip side, silk is incredibly drapey, so you wouldn't have the elasticity or the bounce back that you would get with wool nylon blend sock yarn. So it's one of those things that sometimes with silk yarn socks, once they stretch out, they don't necessarily bounce back, so they'll lose their shape after a while, I believe. Also, from my experience, yarns that have a silk or alpaca content aren't superwash. Even if the merino content is superwash, as a general rule, you can't machine wash those. So I tend to stay away from yarns that can't be machine washed for socks, especially if I'm gifting them. If they're for myself, not as much of an issue because I tend to hand wash my socks anyway. But if I'm gifting them to other people, I don't want other people to, worry about ruining the socks that I've gifted them. So I prefer to give them machine washable socks. I'm going to put this away now. So yeah, I think that's the general gist of the difference between the two. So I hope that answers your question. Let me know if it doesn't. And I guess my question to you guys this week, considering we celebrated early Christmas yesterday, and I'll get more into that later, I'm curious, what's on your Christmas wish list? What are you hoping Santa will bring you this year? Or if you don't celebrate Christmas, what is on your general, gift list of things that you'd like to get? This is generally relating to fibre arts, but it can be other things as well. So I'm just curious, what sort of things are on your want list, as it were. So yeah, let me know in the comments section of the episode on Ravelry, of the episode thread on Ravelry. Now, moving on, like I mentioned earlier, this is under other things. A lot of people have been asking over the last few weeks, and I'm really sorry it's been taking me this long to do this. A lot of people have been asking me to show how I knit on the podcast, and you saw earlier I was knitting on the socks. That was 2x2 ribbing you were seeing me do there. But like I said, I don't think that was a very clear view, but you just get an idea on how I'm knitting. I was at iKnit earlier last week, which again I'll come back to in a bit more detail later, but I met up with a viewer called Maria, who's really lovely, and I've got some stuff that she gave me to show you soon, and she very kindly helped me to film a little segment of me knitting. So I will insert a little clip of that for you guys, and I'm just knitting, it's just pure knitting. I was knitting on a pair of socks, the Pants Croy socks, so I hope it's clear enough for you guys. I didn't have any purling to show you, so I'll be doing a purling video later. And if it works out well, I may try and upload the knit and purl videos together as a separate upload on YouTube, so for anyone who wants to check it back later. But that probably won't be for a while until I actually get someone to help me film a purling video. But anyway, like I said, I'll insert that video clip for you guys here. Right, so hopefully that answers some of your questions about how I knit. I was knitting faster initially, which is my normal speed, and then I slowed down to show you guys the movements. So hopefully you got to see that. Right, shop news. Shop news, like I've mentioned earlier, the shop's closed at the moment. It's on vacation mode until the new year. Mainly because I don't want to worry about trying to mail bags out around Christmas time, because we're not going to get back home till the 14th, and it's just not much point trying to mail out bags a week before Christmas, because I can't guarantee they'll get to you in time, and I don't want to run the risk of losing bags in the post. So I guess we're now moving on to acquisitions, and I'm going to do the acquisition segment slightly differently this week, because I'm going to do my week in review, and I will mention the acquisitions as and when they come up in the week. I think that kind of works out quite well this time. I kind of felt like that would have worked last week as well, and I didn't do that. But I think that's what I'm going to do this week. And so we can review. There'll be lots of little video clips. I did remember to take some video clips to show you guys, and so I'm going to cut those in and out throughout this segment, as well as the acquisitions and the week in review. So it's kind of an amalgamation of all together. So I hope, I'm curious to see if this is going to work out quite right, and I hope it's not too distracting or anything. I'm just checking my notes to make sure I have everything I need. Yeah, I think I've got everything there. Right, so first up, last week I mentioned I'd hurt my wrist knitting too much, and it was probably because of my dad's jumper, but my wrist has been fine since, and I haven't needed to wear the wrist brace. But I did take a break for most of the rest of that Monday, and I wrote up my patterns. They're out being test knit now, and so that was really good. Actually, it was good to get that done. I did knit a bit more on my mum's this way that way socks later that evening though, but mostly took a break that day. Like I mentioned earlier, patterns are out to testers, so those should be coming along soon. Forgot to mention this earlier, but I do have my sock recipe, my 2 at a time sock recipe, which will be released hopefully later this week, so keep your eyes out for that, and I'll post on Instagram when that's released. And it's going to be a free pattern. It's not really a full pattern. I mean, it is a full pattern, you can knit a full pair of socks from it, but it's a lot of notes and comments, and just is a bit more of a chatty pattern where I'm just sort of explaining some of the things that I do and the different variations. So yeah, you can definitely use it to knit a pair of socks. That's the whole point. And I hope some of you will find it useful. The ponchette that I showed you last week, which I'd made for my mum's co-worker as my first ever commission knit. She loves it. It fits her perfectly, and yeah, and I'm so excited. I'm so happy that she likes it. I spent quite a bit of time last week catching up with friends. I met up with some of them individually and some in groups, and it was just really nice to see everyone, or start to see everyone. I still have a couple of friends I haven't had a chance to catch up with yet, which I'm hoping to see soon. And yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I've been wearing all of my hand knits in all sorts of mismatching combinations, because this always makes me laugh, because I keep thinking, every time I wear mismatching knitwear or a very mismatched outfit, I think of Jenny from Tiny Paper Foxes, because she's always going on about planning outfits and coordinating, you know, her sewing projects with her knitting projects, and, you know, to have a coordinated outfit like a sweater, a shawl and a dress or a skirt. I'm just like, I knit what I want, whatever colour I want, and I'll wear it all together no matter how weird it looks. I'd love to have a perfectly coordinated, colour coordinated outfits, but I don't know. I think maybe it's because I don't get to wear my hand knits as much as most other people in colder climates do, or in climates that get colder do. So to me, it's very much like, I just want to knit all the colours and then wear them all together when I can. I don't know. I think I've always been like that though growing up. I went through a phase where I purposely wore mismatched socks when I was a teenager, and I always wore bright colours. Wasn't always the most colour coordinated person. So yeah, that always makes me laugh whenever I wear something mismatched. Now I just keep thinking of Jenny and her very uber organised and colour coordinated planned outfits, which is great, and I love them. I think they're brilliant, and good on her for being able to do it. Yeah. Oh, and one of the things that's happened recently is one of my friends, or someone who I got to know through another friend of mine, Grace, who for a few years now has been a crocheter, and she's recently but has also taken up knitting, and she's about to go off travelling. She's from Ireland, but I believe she's been living in the UK for a few years, and I think she's about to go off travelling for a while, and she's making her way over to Australia, New Zealand area, and she got in touch with me, and we sort of reconnected recently, and she said that she had some fabrics that she wanted to send me that she wasn't going to have time to do anything with before she left, and she wanted to send them to me. So I said that'd be lovely, and that's really sweet. And I've offered to make her, I've asked her to let me know if she had any particular fabric that she really liked that she was sending me, and I could make her a project bag out of it as in return. And so she did, but she didn't just send me fabric. She sent me a whole bunch of stuff, and I just thought I'd show you really quickly what she sent me. She sent me some Barry's tea, which is really nice tea from Ireland, and these are the fabrics that she sent me. There's this one, the Fun Stars, and some solids, and this is the one that she really liked and she wanted me to make her a bag out of. So this is one I'll be sewing up a bag for her out of this print with as long as there's enough, there'll be the coordinating grey would be the lining. And yeah, so that was all I was really expecting, just some few pieces of fabric. But no, she sent me this beautiful handmade card that she made. This really cute little pocket 2016 diary with, I believe that's a scene from Ireland. Really fun. That's actually going to be really handy to keep in my purse. A variety of wooden buttons, some stars in this one, and some flowers and hearts and stuff here, which is really fun, so thank you for that. But the really special thing that she sent, and she told me that I can use these, either keep them myself or use them for podcast prizes, which I very well may do, are these handmade notebooks that she made herself. So there's this small one. You see I don't know how well you can see the texture there. And the pages are hand cut and it's all hand bound by herself. And yeah, and the second one's the same but bigger as plain paper. So these will be coming up, I believe, for podcast prizes later or in the new year. So thank you so much, Grace, for your amazingly wonderful package that I was not expecting. And I will get your bag to you as soon as I can. Once I get back. And then on Tuesday, so that arrived actually later on Monday after I podcasted. And then on Tuesday I headed out to London. I met up with a friend for lunch, and then I met up with Maya at from the Wool Barn at Loop in London. We'd been talking on Sunday at the Curious Handmade Christmas party about wanting to go to Loop, and so I said, well, you know, can you come down to London again one day this week and we'll go together? And she said, so we arranged to go on Tuesday. And that's actually about the only acquisitions I didn't bring with me this week, bring down with me to my in-laws' house, was the stuff I bought from Loop. But I'll show that to you guys next week. However, I did take some video actually whilst we were at Loop, and I will stick that in for you guys here. other than the stuff that I bought at Loop, which I don't have to show you, I think the only, which I don't have to show you, Maya gave me a very sweet little package that I was not expecting. It was just really, really sweet. So there's going to be some crinkling. I'm not going to apologise for it. Deal with it. I always think crinkling is a really fun noise. Anyway, so she gave me, let's start off with the little things. She gave me a pair of Hi kitty snips, which are always awesome to have. Really useful. She gave me 2 of these little ukulele samples. I've already used one. I used one to wash my dad's sweater. And she also gave me some of these awesome little sock stitch markers. Little gold ones with a bronzy brown sort of purple. Actually, no, it's purple, it's not brown. Little purple bead on them. There's a whole little box of them here. But then, the most amazing thing that she gave me, not 1, but 2 amazing skeins of her smooth sock yarn. So this one is in the Deep Sea colourway and this one is in the Cerise colourway. And I have a skein of her smooth sock in silver at home. So the 3 of these are going to be something awesome. I haven't decided what yet, but I have an idea. And I really like her new labels. Maya was saying that she's not sure about the new labels for her yarn, but I really like it. I think it's quite elegant and very pretty. Anyway, Maya and I got to chatting and we have some really fun ideas for next year, so stay tuned to hear about those soon. So yeah, thank you again, Maya. Thank you so much. It was so sweet of you. Actually, I'll deal with that later. But yeah, so that was totally overwhelming and unexpected. Yeah, and then I'm trying to check my notes, see where I'm at. Oh yeah, so then after I met up with Maya that day, I headed over to my mum's work and we went down to my aunt's house. My dad and my brother came and joined us for dinner that night. And I showed my aunt hand-dyed yarn for the first time that she'd never really seen. Sorry, it's just gotten quite, the sun's come out from behind the clouds, so the lighting's gone a bit funny. So I was showing her what hand-dyed yarn felt like and the differences between them and stuff like that, and she seemed quite interested, which was fun. And then on Thursday, I headed down to I Knit London, it's near Waterloo Station. I hadn't been there before, but heard a lot of good things about it, and I kept meaning to go, just hadn't had the time. So I went down there, and like I said earlier, I met up with Maria, who is a viewer of the podcast, and we'd arranged to do a swap with each other whilst we were there. I completely forgot to take the package. I mean, I brought the package with me to London, I just forgot to take it with me on the day I was meeting up with her. So I ended up posting her package the next day, but Maria didn't forget. She brought me a very sweet package. So I thought I'd show you quickly what she got me. She gave me 3 skeins of yarn. 3, which is just crazy. This one is a skein of some merino lace fit yarn. I think it's 600 meters. She's dyed this herself with Easter egg dye pellets. And then there's this orange skein of worsted weight yarn, which is about 200 meters in this one. Also dyed with Easter egg dyes. And the third one is this skein of opal. It's in the colour number 26910. It's fun oranges and blues. You can see the patterning there. It's opal smile. That's the, I think that's right. Fun. That'll be a good pair of socks. Nice and hard wearing. That wasn't all she got me. Nope. She got me a fun, awesome notebook, which are always handy. Notebooks are great. She made me this cute little project bag. It has a little handle on it, drawstrings. She didn't just make me one project bag, she made me 2 project bags. And this little one has poppers on it. Opens up nicely, and I love the cute little birdhouses on it. And inside, lots of little goodies, including a little owl tea mug and some tea bags, which smell amazing, by the way. And I went and met up with my mum after I met up with Maria. I went to meet my mum to have lunch, and then after lunch my mum normally has some tea. So whilst we were having lunch, I was showing her the stuff that Maria had got me, and my mum took a couple of the tea bags and yeah, they smell amazing. They smell great, even through the plastic. She also gave me a lot of Kool-Aid to dye with, and a pack of Easter egg dye pellets to try out. So that's really good fun. I'm looking forward to trying those out soon. And then on top of that, she made another little bag, which has a whole host of goodies in it, little goodies. So first up are these 4 beautifully coordinated skeins of yarn, and they're all from Owl About Yarn. And I believe she has an Etsy shop. I've seen it a few times and I've been very tempted to order from her, just not been the right time. And one of them is a sparkly yarn. But I don't know if you can see the purple one there, there's some sparkle in it. They don't have any colourway names on them, but they're really fun. Looking forward to adding those to my blanket. She's also given me a little crocheted monster creature, which is really adorable. So cute. This adorable little sock blocker keychain, which is also a needle gauge. I don't know if you can see that. Got little holes for the needles to go through. Goes from a 2mm to a 3.5mm, so that's actually going to be quite handy. And then a little pouch, a little film tube full of, there's a bunch of buttons in there. Ooh! Just pour them out all over my computer, why don't I? And these really, really cute and adorable stitch markers. So there's a little birdie there, a little rubber ducky, and some beaded ones as well. So thank you so much, these little progress keepers. So thank you so much, Maria. That was just all a little bit too much, way too much, but so generous, and thank you so much. And I really hope you enjoy your package that I've sent you as well. And yes, that was everything that Maria had gotten me. And we spent quite a bit of time at iKnit in the end. We were probably there for about a couple of hours in the end. And we played with the puppies, because the owner, Gerard, has a couple of puppies that he brings into the shop. And they're so cute and so adorable, and spent a lot of time playing with them and knitting in the shop and just chatting in general. So that was just really fun. But I couldn't leave iKnit without purchasing a couple of little things. Could I? No. I purchased a skein of West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply in the Hollyberry colourway, and the coordinating skein of Cherry Drop yarn. And what I've decided I'm going to do with these is I'm going to knit 2 pairs of inversible socks. So I'm going to knit one sock with the Hollyberry as the main colour and the Cherry Drop as the cuff, heel and toe. And then the second sock will be the Cherry Drop as the main colour and the Hollyberry as the cuff, heel and toe. And then I'll knit a second pair the same, because there's enough in each of these for a pair of socks. So I should be able to get 2 pairs of socks out of this. I was originally going to do one, full with the Hollyberry, and this for the heels, cuffs and toes, and one the other way round. But I thought it'd be fun to have an inversible pair, doing 2 pairs of inversibles, and give one set to my mum and one for myself, so we'll have matching socks. So I think that's probably what I'll do, and that way it also means I don't have to wind these into 250-gram cakes. I can just knit straight from the balls. So this might be an Iceland project, to do the 2 pairs of socks. The other thing I bought from there was a skein of their own dyed yarn, so I Knit or Dye. This is the different class base, I believe. It's 100% superwash blue face Leicester, and I love these colours. Just really, really fun, and it's called Starman. So I really love these colours. And they did have another one which was sort of very Christmassy themed. It was green and red, similar sort of dye method, speckles and splotches and stuff like that. But it was an 100% merino base, and they didn't have it in a sock base for some reason with nylon. And I didn't want to run the risk with the 100% merino. But it was really fun. And I couldn't think of anything else I wanted to use that colour way for, the green and red one, other than socks. So I didn't buy it then, but I'm going back next week, which I'll get to in a bit. But anyway, and I have some video footage that I took from the store, so I will insert that here. And yeah, anyway, like I said, after I went to iKnit, I went up to meet my mum, and so iKnit is in Waterloo, and Maria and I walked from Waterloo to Westminster Station over the bridge, and there's some footage of that here. I hopped on the tube and I was heading to High Street Kensington, that's where my mum works, but there were some issues with the tube lines, and I ended up getting out at Earl's Court and walking from Earl's Court to High Street Kensington. And it's actually not a bad walk, it's really lovely. It's only about 15-20 minutes from there to High Street Kensington. So, and there were some really lovely streets I walked through. I did take some footage, so if there's anything good I will insert that here, otherwise there won't be anything and I'll move on. And we ended up after work, I stayed with my mum after lunch and just sort of hung out in her office and did some knitting whilst I waited for her to finish up work. And then we walked to Shepherd's Bush to Westfield in Shepherd's Bush for something, to get some things before heading home. So that day I did a lot of walking, a lot of walking. By the end of it, my legs felt so tired, like they were about to fall off. But it was good. It was a really good day. And then I had to pack my bags that night because the Friday we were coming down to Perry's parents. Perry landed at 6 a.m. on Friday morning, and my parents had insured me and Perry on their car. So I drove down to the airport, packed up my bags in the morning, drove down to the airport, picked up Perry, and we actually went to my aunt's house first in Kingston. We swung past there and popped in for breakfast with my aunt and uncle. They hadn't seen Perry in almost a year. The last time they saw Perry, we were on our way back to Dubai from Iceland last year. So we thought we'd stop in and say hi to them, and they really enjoyed seeing him, which was great. And then we got down to Perry's parents in time for around lunchtime. His mum had the day off from work, so we hung out with her in the afternoon and just spent the afternoon here. That was really fun, and yeah, so it was just really nice. Then and so there's some footage of our I think drive down. I'm not sure if there's footage of the actual drive down or from other times when we were driving around the area. So I'll insert some of that footage around here. Yeah, and then on Saturday morning, or Saturday early afternoon, we headed out to one of the pubs nearby to meet up with some of Perry's friends for a pub lunch. And so that was really fun. And then we'd actually, on the drive down here, on the Friday morning, I was driving, and as we were getting quite close by, his parents live really close to Ashdown Forest, which is, for those of you who may or may not know, is the home of Winnie the Pooh. And we were driving through part of Ashdown Forest and then saw a sign for an entrance to a llama farm, and I quite literally almost had a bit of a moment. I was like, llamas! And if there wasn't a car behind me, I probably would have stopped and reversed back up the road. But there was a car behind me, so I kept going. And Perry very quickly reassured me that we'd be able to go back again. It's another day. So we actually went after lunch on Saturday. We popped in. It was a bit wet and rainy and a bit cold, but we popped in anyway. It was quite fun. It was more of like a petting zoo style type of venue. It would have been amazing to go with kids, I think. Kids would really enjoy it. But I basically was a 5-year-old when we were there. I was just like, oh, animals! Definitely a city girl, I have to say. I'm most certainly a city girl. So it's just like farm animals, like. But yeah, they had llamas, they had alpacas, they had pigs, goats, ducks, reindeer, turkeys. They had all sorts of animals there, and it was good fun. And ponies, they had little tiny ponies. I think they're called Shetland. Are they called Shetland ponies, the little ones? Anyway, so I took plenty of photos, so there'll be a blog post about that at some point when I get round to it. And there's a little video clip that I took, so I will insert that for you guys here. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun as well. And then yesterday, Sunday, my parents came down. My parents and my brother came down, and we all had a celebrated early Christmas with Perry's family here. And so that was a lot of fun. We had everyone together. It was the first time we'd managed to get the whole family together. Well, we did in September when we were back. We met up somewhere in between for a birthday lunch to celebrate everyone's birthdays. But prior to that, it had been quite a while since we'd managed to get both families together in one place. So that was really fun. It was nice to hang out with everyone, and everyone loved their socks, their Christmas socks, and we got a group photo with everyone other than my dad, who didn't want to take his shoes off. So there's a picture of that on Instagram, and like I said, my dad loved his sweater, so if you wanted to see a picture of that, that's also on Instagram. But I got this really cute Christmas card from Perry's mum and dad, which I thought was hilarious. How adorable is that? Little cat with a Christmas pudding hat. Oh, and the other thing I got from iKnit, totally forgot to show you this, but I picked up a couple of cables. Nothing exciting for my interchangeable sets. Anyway. And the other Christmas present that I wanted to show you, I got lots of little things and stuff that I'm not going to show you, but anyway. But the main thing I wanted to show you was the fabric that I bought the other week with my mum, which she then promptly took away from me because she proclaimed it was my Christmas present. So I picked up some of this fabric, which I really like, and I'm thinking with this fabric, I think I'll do this as the lining for this fabric. I'm not sure, what do you guys think? Is that too busy? Is that too much? But I think the colours work really well together. So that's those two prints. And then I picked up some more. This one was really popular. Some of these ones, this one in particular, I had a fat quarter of, which went into a couple of small bags into the shop, which was quite popular. And this one as well was really popular. So I got some more of this fabric to make into bags. And then I got some of these, which are really cute little takeaway cups, coffee cups, teacups. And I love this print. I think this print is so adorable. They're like the little Russian dolls, but different themes. So you got a little court jester, you got a little bear, you got a cowboy, you got a ladybug. It's just really cute. I just thought that was really adorable. And then I picked up quite a substantial amount of fabric, of watermelon fabric. This is going to become a very exciting project next year, and you guys will have to wait and see what that becomes. But yeah, so that's my shiny box of fabric. Ooh. Christmas presents. And I think that pretty much covers everything. I don't think I've missed anything out. I'm pretty sure I've covered everything that I was going to say and talk about. Let me just quickly check my notes. Yeah, and then so the video clip from the llama farm, but I also took a little video clip, forgot to mention. The llama farm also, obviously they had a gift shop, and they had a lot of alpaca and llama yarn related goods on sale. Lots of like traditional Peruvian ponchos and sweaters and rugs and all sorts of things handmade that they were selling there. They do also sell yarn, but it's not made out of the fibers from the alpacas and llamas that they have on the farm themselves. There it's produced somewhere else in the UK. It is still UK alpaca yarn, but they didn't actually have anything left in stock, so I didn't get anything from them there to show you. But I did take some footage from the shop, from the little gift shop, so I thought I would stick that in here for you guys. It was quite interesting to see, and yeah, so I'll stick that in here. Covers it. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk to you guys about and show to you guys. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining me this week. I think this is going to be quite a long episode. I'm over an hour already, and I still have a bunch of clips to insert, so we will see how long this ends up being. I hope to be able to get this uploaded before we have to leave, but we need to leave in about 5 hours, so fingers crossed this will at least get uploaded, even if it's not finished processing. At least it'll be uploaded for you guys to see today, hopefully. So thank you so much for joining me this week. If you have any questions or any comments, please let me know in the episode thread on Ravelry. I do have a questions and suggestions thread on the Ravelry group, so you can leave me any questions there as well. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me this week. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye.